which was a few years ago, that there was an increase in families and individuals using food banks or food outlets in their community. There seemed to be more reliance on additional food packs from food banks at that time, and there was a real concern that it was going to be a future trend. So this was prior to COVID and prior to Brexit, that we had already identified that this was an area that we needed to explore a little bit further. So we had the impact of Brexit as well. There was a number of reports came out, and it seemed that Aberdeenshire was highlighted as one of the areas that would be most affected. And this is because, one, we're quite far away from a lot of the markets, but also we're a huge rural area, and our infrastructure can be quite fragile in some of our rural areas. So there was a worry not just about the impact it was going to have on employment in the food industry, but also some of our supply chains as well. We have the impact of COVID, which has been over the last few months. And on lockdown, we set up a community hub for Grampian. And within that community hub, over 50% of all of the inquiries to that hub was in connection to food. So food became a priority for individuals, families, communities, and partners. So it wasn't just access to food, but it was the affordability of food. Lockdown had an effect that a lot of people were using their corner shop more. That's a bit more expensive because there wasn't transport to get to the larger towns. People were really feeling that it was challenging to buy the food that they needed to feed their families. And some of our families in Aberdeenshire are larger families, and with the restrictions on what they could feed, what they could buy, they couldn't necessarily feed their family for the whole week. So there was a range of issues that were coming through the hub that gave us a priority around this area. So taking all that together, the partners had a look and decided that we needed a more sustainable approach to food and to support our rural economy, because a lot of the jobs are around the food industry, fishing, agriculture, food and drink, forestry, that there was a real commitment to partners coming together and making sure if anything happens in the future, we're not in a position where there's some fragile pathways around access and food and affordability. So once the partners had agreed that this was an area that we needed to look at, we set up a partnership, and that partnership's right across not just council services, but third sector, and also involves people from the business sector who are supporting the businesses that are delivering this agenda in Aberdeenshire. So we got quite a good cross-section of partners that could give us their views and thoughts to develop a draft strategy. We identified good practice, and there is a lot of good practice around, maybe not so much for huge rural areas like Aberdeenshire, but certainly in some of the towns we saw that a lot of the strategies and work that was going around the food agenda looked very creative, very inviting for people, and we wanted something that it wasn't just a document that was going to sit in somebody's desk, that was going to have ownership of all the community as well as partners. We looked to Aberdeen City, who has had a strategy for a while, to see what kind of strategy they had and what they covered as well, because Aberdeenshire and Aberdeen City do have this connection with each other, so it just made sense to incorporate any areas that they had identified. The partners agreed what areas the strategy should cover, and this was quite difficult because we started off with affordability and access, up looking at health and well-being, looking at the economy and jobs, and we couldn't really disconnect one element of that. So it was more of a holistic approach that we took, hence the field to fork strategy. So we have developed a draft strategy, which I'm happy to share with everybody after this session. It's just, I didn't want to put ideas into your head. I need to consult with people on what they think should be in a strategy. But there is a draft strategy which coordinates activities, programmes and developments, and we're agreeing actions, and we've got some funding at the moment through the Scottish Government, who has gave us a food fund, and that is going to be used to help people develop community-based food programmes around growing and access and cooking. So we do have a little bit of funding at the moment, but hopefully we'll be able to draw down more funding or realign budgets or collectively use the resources that we have in Aberdeenshire better. We are in the process of consulting with others to ensure the strategy reflects what is needed. And it's really important that the strategy is also owned by local communities and not just partners that have came up with a strategic approach. There needs to be a community element there that people can relate to, or else no change will be made. So the purpose of a strategic approach is to have, as I've already said, develop all aspects around food, ensuring there's a coordinated approach and a more holistic approach to food and the activities and programmes that are around that. So it's not just about growing, but it's about producing, it's about employment, health and well-being, skills as well. So the strategy should reflect the communities across Aberdeenshire, including those that are remote in our rural areas. It was really important to the partners that it was a strategy that covered the whole of Aberdeenshire, because sometimes our strategies might be developed around the towns or the larger villages. And if you are in a remote area of Aberdeenshire, accessing some of the services or even a supermarket can be really difficult because of our infrastructure around transport. So whatever we were doing, we needed to make sure it was going to be positive for the more remote areas. There's already a lot of work going on in this area. So what we wanted to do is make sure we linked to the other strategies that informed that. And very quickly we identified the growing strategy that Callum and his team has been developing. And that is not just looking about green spaces and how we can use them to grow food, but it also has an education element with contacting schools to make sure that people are supported to teach children about where their food comes from. So it does support the curriculum as well. And we needed it not just to be words, but we needed actions to come out of it. We need the strategies about improving people's lives and strengthening our communities. So if it was just a whole load of words and it didn't actually mean anything to anybody, no changes would be made. So our vision is about equity of access and sustainability. So it's not just about access to low cost food, but it's about the sustainability element as well. We do know that there's quite a high wastage of food from supermarkets and from other businesses. So we need to make sure whatever we put in place is sustainable. We want to ensure that it supports our rural economy. The local food sector does create a number of employment opportunities from very small employers to large employers around the fishing industry and agriculture. So we certainly want to support that going forward. And we want to ensure that around skills and well-being, people have the opportunity to develop skills around growing, cooking, and the impact it has on health and well-being. We want it to be a positive experience, sharing food and preparing that food as well. Because I think sometimes we underestimate the impact food has on our health and well-being. So access and sustainability. So the strategy aims to deliver healthy, affordable food regardless of where or how much they earn. So it also wants to support community kitchens, food outlets, and we have a number of those across Aberdeenshire that CFINE, our Fair Share partner, has developed with local communities. And they include pantries, and they use surplus produce to benefit the local communities already through Fair Share as a national intervention. We want to continue to support initiatives which promote healthy food, reduce the carbon footprint, and to encourage to encourage people to look at the waste that they have, especially the businesses, schools, larger employers that might have a high level of food waste. We want to encourage them to have a look at how can they use that. Can they make it up into healthy meals to put it out to food banks or food outlets so low-income families can benefit. There's a number of projects that have the priority of reducing waste. So the strategy does have that element. We want to build on the work that's already been done, especially in Aberdeen City around sustainable food regions, and that's about positive procurement. We all buy food, whether it's catering for our staff, catering for schools, hospitals. There is a lot of us that procure food, and we want to make sure that we're reducing the waste and promoting local producers where we can, and try and buy as local as possible to help the sustainability. So economy and employment. As I've previously said, we're a large rural area, and it has a number of employment opportunities using fishing, agricultural, forestry and food processing. So the food sector are a key contributor to our rural economy, and at times like this where employment opportunities have reduced, it's really important that we develop well-paid jobs and support producers and businesses that are being creative at this time. The Aberdeenshire Employability Partnership, who are also delivering services this week, will continue to develop a skilled workforce. They work alongside employers and engage with employers to see not what they need around skills for their workforce at the moment, but also looking forward, what is it that they're looking for in the future, and how can we put in place programs to skill up the workforce so we're ready to take up the challenges of the future. Opportunity North East is developing and supporting food and drink, agricultural fisheries sector across Aberdeenshire, and they're making sure that the businesses that are being affected have the right support going forward so that we can continue to develop these areas. And over lockdown, what we saw was local farmers and producers setting up direct deliveries. We've had people in the fishing industry, local fishing boats that have been delivering to villages and local houses. We saw a number of producers coming together and doing online forums where you can get a delivery to your door during lockdown, especially for those that were self-isolating. We also had a number of businesses that were producing not just essential boxes for those that were self-isolating, but they were using the produce that they have and making up meals and targeting the most vulnerable in their community, and it was very welcome, especially during lockdown. And as we go forward, this online way of shopping will continue, and we will be supporting our businesses in the local area to continue that opportunities in the future. The skills and well-being element, and this is all about growing food, cooking, having a look to see how food actually affects us, not just makes us feel good, but it's actually good for our health. So there is a growing strategy that's already been developed, as I've already said, and it identifies lands across Aberdeenshire that could be considered to be used as allotment sites or used by the communities, not just for vegetables, but fruits and herbs and flowers. And there's an education element, as I've already said, which supports schools and pupils to learn skills in growing their food and how this can improve their health and well-being. We know that it is difficult to access good quality fruit and veg in some of our areas. So by using these community spaces and developing these skills, it would be really positive for local people. And we have got some good examples of where schools and communities are coming together to utilise polytunnels so that whatever is growing during term time continues to grow and be looked after over the holidays as well by communities, and it's a really good partnership. We've also seen in other areas where allotments and food banks have came together so that the produce can be used in food parcels to those that need them, and that's also been done in some of our outlets where farmers have donated fresh fruit and veg to food outlets to make sure that they can be used in their local community. And the positive impact of cooking and being able to share that has been evidenced. We have projects that we already fund around cooking skills. Garey Community Kitchen is a really good example of that, where they support parents and children to cook together, because sometimes parents are a bit nervous around letting their kids in the kitchen with hot pans and things, so they do courses to make sure that the parents have the confidence to allow quite young children, nursery and up, to help prepare their own food with really good positive impacts, not just for the family, but the way that they're using their budget, because it's a lot cheaper to make a pot of soup than it is maybe to buy other convenience food. They also go into secondary schools to try and develop skills around cooking and budgeting to make sure that our young people that are going into the world of work or further education have those skills for the future. And the last point there is just about how we do have some health conditions that our colleagues in health and social care and NHS are very aware of and quite concerned about. So we know that food can reduce some of these conditions and improve people's health and well-being. So we have a lot of good practice across Aberdeenshire, and hopefully this video is going to play. This is a project in Banchory that takes the fork to field, and gives you an indication of some of the projects that are going on, and that this is a very positive one that's developed over the last few years in the Banchory area.
That's not playing for us, Annette, the video. Is it playing on your screen but not ours? Maybe need to select another window. I'm not sure.
Okay. Wait a minute. And things were going so well. Right, if you just hold on till I come out of this. And we'll see if we can play it on a. Have you got, Caroline, have you got the video there as well?
Yeah, I'll see if I can share it from here. Yeah.
Right, I've put it over to you.
Let me just see. There's always got to be some little hiccup with the technology.
That's okay. Because it was playing and all I could hear was the video. So that's why I was like, oh, this is going really well. Obviously not.
Right, I need to, can you, I don't, stop sharing your screen? Can't share my screen. There we go. I'm still seeing yours.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right.
Is that it?
No, still there. Oh, there we go. That's it. It should be all right now. Let me see. That option comes up. Here we go. Let's see if this is. We're getting there. We're getting there.
That's okay.
Can everybody see this now? The screen for the video? You see that?
Yep.
Yeah. Great. I'll just play that.
There isn't any sound, though.
Okay,
It's a very silent one, but what we
well,
can
there's
do.
just music over the top of it. There's no speaking over it. It's music to go along with the images. So, yeah, but we can share the video link as well.
Yeah, so what we can do is share it to make sure that everybody can see it in their own time. And I've just noticed that Jean has came in, so welcome, Jean.
Yeah, thanks. Got proper problems with technology.
That's okay. I think there's a number of people that has problems with technology this morning, so including ourselves, so that's fine. So the only other slide that I had on my PowerPoint was to ask you what you think is missing. What do you think we need to do to make this strategy real for people? So I'm looking for some ideas from people to make sure that whatever strategy we're putting in place is there for everybody. So I just want to open it up to everybody for a discussion about anything that you've seen or anything that you would like to share. So
Miriam has a hand up.
Miriam, do you want to?
Yeah, I was wondering how much community groups have been consulted on the strategy or been involved in drafting the strategy to make it, I guess, kind of more applicable at a grassroots level, because that's kind of where a lot of the change is hoping to be seen. As my understanding is so far.
We've had a number of people who support community groups that have been involved in developing the strategy, and they've been asking community groups that they work with for their input. But as the strategy is it's still in draft form, it's very new, we thought we would take this opportunity to highlight it to a wider audience today. So certainly we can send that out, and if you want to share that at the wider community, that would be really beneficial, because you're right. I think the more ownership we have at a grassroots level, the better the impact's going to have.
Brilliant. No, that'd be fantastic if we could, at Aberdeenshire Voluntary Action, share that, especially with our members and via our newsletter to groups to be able to participate. Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, because I do think we need to have some real change, but it's everybody together. It's not just people at a strategic level. It's the folk on the ground that's actually making the change already. And as you've seen from that video, there's already projects in place that we can learn from and share good practice. So one of the things we're also is if there's any good practice. So if in your membership you have community groups or projects that you want to highlight as good practice, then please let us know and we'll put that into the strategy, because it sometimes needs to have examples of real projects, you know, to make it more have more ownership with those that are delivering on the ground. So that would be really good too.
Good stuff.
Anne Ruthven.
Sorry, I just had to unmute myself.
That's okay.
I years ago worked for Fife Council, and something that they had done was to use flower beds, etc., to actually grow vegetables that members of the public could help themselves to. So, for example, like big flower beds outside some of the main council offices had been converted. We're growing carrots. There was lots of herb boxes. In the parks, some of the big flower beds were actually replaced with things that were growing potatoes, growing, pretty much anything, lettuces, and that. It took a while for members of the public to realise that they could just help themselves, but it was basically free fruits and veg. At some of the parks, they had apple trees, etc., and they grew bushes with various berries on that people could help themselves to. Is this something that the Shire Council would ever think of doing? Because there's huge amounts of space that could be used for that.
I don't want to take Callum's thunder away, but I do know that in the growing strategy that's been developed, that we're linking the two together under one strategy, that those ideas are something that we want to explore. And Callum has been working with community groups to identify land, maybe looking at community orchards, and exactly what you've said there, have boxes to grow food rather than put flowers or grass there. Callum, I don't know if you want to come in.
Yes. Yes, I suppose you may know about, there's a green space officer post that's been in Aberdeenshire. I think it comes to the end of their contracts at the end of the year. So they've been looking at diversifying our open space. And I suppose the main impetus of this was carbon reduction and not maintaining cutting grass as often as we do. There's no need for that, really. So the way to diversify our open space would be to change it to orchards or community growing. So that's all part of our aim to reduce our maintenance, but increase diversity as well as food growing.
So I think the difference with that is that Fife Council did a lot of the planting. So instead of them going out and planting it, it wasn't left for members of the public to plant. It was, the council had it all planted. Instead of the flower maintenance and looking after the flower beds, it's something that became part of the council maintenance.
I think I know about this. I'm just thinking of a few issues with that though, getting the community involved. Often these beds are at road junctions or main entrances into towns and villages. The soil may be polluted, so or contaminated, just with years of salt and.
Right, because a lot of it was done.
I'm not against it. I'm just saying there is possibly some issues there. But the council from Arden produced hundreds of thousands of bedding plants. They did up until this year, and they were all given to communities, and communities would plant them and maintain them, and it would save the council maintaining them. The bedding plants got stopped this year. So these polytunnels, these houses in Arden have potential to diversify and grow other things. But also the beds that would normally have been filled in villages. I've seen some villages finding their own way of planting these beds up. And one of those could be vegetables. There's nothing to stop communities that already maintain beds to diversify,
Mm-hmm.
I think we can look at all the options here. There's already a network, as Callum is explaining, of communities that take ownership over their open spaces. And if there is communities that need additional support around that, then we're happy to support them. But there could be an idea, as Callum's saying, diversifying some of the activity around Arden. So instead of planting plants, we are planting fruit and veg plants as well. So it's a really good example of what can happen when people come together. So I'd be interested in the Fife model, and I'm sure that Aberdeenshire Council would support communities and have a look at, how they can diversify their stuff as well. Do you want to say anything else, Callum?
Yeah, the Scottish Government kicked all the food growing, announced it anyway, but 2016, and Fife Council inputted into the guidance that came onto the food growing strategy. And they even came up to Peterhead to give us a presentation, and I can't remember the guy's name, but he was a great advocate of community food growing. So we have learned a lot from Fife in this process. And just to say that when we started looking at this about 2016, it was to include the whole picture. You know, it's about getting people growing food and accessing land. But as our strategy has progressed, we've essentially just focused now on the Community Empowerment Act and what our statutory duty is in maintaining waiting lists and demand for plots and allotments that we have. And part of our reporting is to reduce the waiting lists and provide land where there's demand. And over the last few months since COVID, there's communities. Newmarket last week have got 62 people on a group now asking for land, and that has just come out of nowhere. 62 people is a big demand. So we will go and identify land that we would maybe cut religiously every 14 days all summer. It's little used for anything else apart from dog walkers. So we do have land that we don't want to maintain as intensively as, you know, but we need these communities to come together and form themselves, and the council's community project officers are often the ones to assist these communities to constitute themselves and get themselves together and access funds for maybe infrastructure to put in the areas of open space that we have. So I hope that kind of helps.
Yeah, thank you.
You're on mute, Annette.
Yeah, it's going really well today. I can't see anybody either, so I'm not quite sure what's happened to my connection. But have we got any other comments or viewpoints around this area? Has anybody got any good practice that they want to share from their own experience, just like Anne had shared about the Fife experience? Is there any other projects or interventions that people want to highlight? So do people, we're going to be able to share the strategy with you. We'll also share the link for the video, and we will give you contact details for myself, Callum, and you probably already have contact details for Caroline. So if you want to follow up anything, is there any areas within the strategy that people think are missing or that we need to develop more? It is an awful lot of information to be taken on.
Callum was wanting to come back in, Annette.
Okay, Callum?
Yes, thanks. Can I just say, when we started this strategy a few years back, and we've now basically stuck to what we're expected to do, which is waiting lists, allotments and regulations. What was taken out of that strategy was the bigger, much bigger picture, which is what you're all discussing, we're discussing today. And that's the bit that we don't have, landscape services don't have resources to do or the contacts to do. So that's why I'm involved in this group, because that was part of the bigger picture. So this side, the food to fork, that's the bit that needs looked at, you know. That was all, thanks.
That's great. And I think this is a conversation that we're going to have for a little while yet. We don't always get things right the first time, but by having a wider consultation, I think we'll be able to get something out that reflects Aberdeenshire and the communities, and also hopefully have ownership from the community. So collectively we can make the field to fork strategy something that is going to benefit everybody in Aberdeenshire. So if there isn't any other questions or any other comments or viewpoints, or people want to share anything, then I'm going to say thanks very much for your participation. I know we had it down as an hour, but I don't believe in keeping things going just for the sake of it. And since we've had a number of technical problems in this session, hopefully none of the other sessions will have that. They'll go swimmingly this week. So I just want to thank you all for your participation. And I hope you've signed up to some of the other sessions during the week. We've got some really good stuff around finance, employment, and we're hearing from lived experience people as well during the week. And I just want to say thanks very much for your attendance and hope to hear from you all soon. Please, when you get the strategy, any comments, any points of view would be really welcome. Because we're still at the development stage. So thanks very much, and I hope you have a good day. So thank you. Bye.